Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Good morning to all students. My name is Ronira Latif and I am one of the research fellows in the Institute of Microengineering and Nanoelectronics, IMEN. So this week is my turn to give you a lecture on this course. What I will cover for today's lecture will be the thesis writing format in Gaia UKM. That's the first section, and then I will continue with the writing of manuscript for journal and research book. That will be the second section, and the third section, I'll talk about on how or what makes a good journal or a good thesis. At the end of today's lecture, there will be an assignment for you to do. Okay, without further ado, let us start with the first section. Thesis writing according to Gaia UKM. Okay, so what is Gaia UKM? Why should you be bothered about this? Some of the old students who have been here for so long in UKM might consider Gaia UKM as a cumbersome or burdensome chores to do. Some of you who are still new here might get confused on what is Gaia UKM. And some of the students would like to give excuses that Gaia UKM is a complicated issue in their research. So what is Gaia UKM? Gaia is a Malay language. If you translate it to English, it will be style. So Gaia UKM means UKM style. So it's actually a formatting developed by UKM to standardize all theses or dissertations produced by UKM students. So if you are a UKM student, you have to know Gaia UKM. It is actually developed to assist postgraduate students to produce theses with a set of standards that we have set. What we wanted to do is not to burden the students, but actually we wanted to make your life easy. In a way, there are many different formattings that people could choose to write the thesis. Every different university in each different country, they have their own formatting or standard format to write a thesis. So to make your life easy, now you don't have to choose a format from various different sources. It's there, it has been developed for so long by UKM. And due to its crystal clear formatting setting, we wanted for you to focus on your research and reduce your stress for thesis writing. So it's there, just use it. In UKM Graduate Studies Regulation 2015, it says there, in the preparation of thesis or dissertation, a student shall comply with the conditions as follows. The writing format must be in accordance with the Gaia UKM thesis or dissertation writing guideline. Whether you like it or not, you have to use this format. You are a UKM student doing a research in UKM, so you have to use UKM formatting for your thesis. Second, in bracket C, the thesis or dissertation must be written in Bahasa Melayu. At 29, in bracket 2, notwithstanding sub-regulation of 29 in bracket 1 in bracket C, a thesis or dissertation may be written in English or Arabic with approval from your dean or director. If you go to the Pusat Siswaza or the UKM Graduate Centre's website, there are a few useful files that you could use before you start to write your thesis. The first one is the UKM Thesis Writing Guideline. If you go to this link, you will come to this website page, and the guideline it comes in two versions, in Malay and in English. So you could download the guideline here. The guidelines will be in PDF files. On the same page, you could find the template in Word for your thesis writing, also in Malay and English version. If you are familiar with LaTeX, you can try and download the LaTeX version. Next, also on the same page, you could find the reference manager. It will give you an information regarding Mendeley and the manual, which can help you to do your reference afterwards. So we will talk more about this later. Right, so there are many workshops being conducted by our UKM graduate centers, not just for the students, but also for your supervisors. So the supervisors are encouraged to follow this workshop series. It will give you tips on how to use the template, and usually it's free for the supervisors and also for the students, but some you have to pay, I think. So they are actively involved in organizing this workshop series to help the students and also the supervisors on thesis writing. Let us look at the technical specification. This is an example of the front cover, the hardbind cover of your thesis, where you write your thesis title on the top, and in the middle you put your name, and at the bottom is the name of your university. So the details should be printed in gold capitals, Times New Roman, 18 points, and the distance from the top edge of the thesis to the thesis title should be 60 millimeter, and from the bottom edge to the university's name should also be 60 millimeters. So that's the technical specification for the front cover. Please do not concern too much on this formatting. You should focus more on the content of your thesis. So for this formatting, it's already in the template, you just use it. It's not like you have to print and then taking out your ruler to measure the distance. You don't have to do that, right? And this is the technical specification for the spine of your thesis. I think it has two different standard format for a thesis thicker than 25 millimeters and for a thesis not thicker than 25 millimeters. You see, you put your name there, and this is 60 millimeter distance from the top edge and also from the bottom edge. The body of text for PhD students, you should make sure that your thesis should not exceed 100,000 words or 400 pages. And for master students, the thesis should not exceed 60,000 words or 250 pages. Please take note that the total number of words does not include the footnotes, quotations, appendices, formulae, tables, diagrams, and illustrations. This is the normal thesis layout that you should have. You should start with a title page, followed by declaration, acknowledgements, abstract, and you have your translation of abstract in Malay or English, followed by the list of contents, list of tables, list of illustrations, list of symbols, abbreviations, glossary, or terminology that you have used in the whole thesis, and followed by the most important part of your thesis, the body of text, where you put all of your results and analysis there. And yeah, you wrap up your thesis with references and appendices. So that's your thesis layout. Regarding font and size, you need to use Times New Roman for the whole thesis, and the font size should be 12 points. For title and subtitle, the font size should be 11 points. For example, here you could see that's chapter 1, the title of the chapter, and the first subheadings. So they are all in capital letters. The subsequent subheadings should be in small letters. Okay, so font size for headings and subheadings is 11 points. Now we look at abstract. This is an example, a sample of an abstract. It should be written single spacing. You must write abstract in Malay and English. Okay. A thesis written in Bahasa Malaysia should have its abstract in Bahasa Malaysia and followed by a translation in English together with a translation of the title. For a thesis written in English, it should have its translation abstract in Bahasa Malaysia without the title, followed by abstract in English also without a title. So this is an example of your abstract. The length of the abstract should be between 200 to 300 words. So minimum number of words for an abstract is 200. The maximum number of words for an abstract is 300. For content list, this is an example of your list of content in your thesis. The subtitle numbering is up to 2 decimal places only, up to 3rd level. So this is the first level, chapter 1. 1.1 is the 2nd level. 1.1.1 is the 3rd level. Okay, so the subtitle numbering is up to 2 decimal places only for the content list. The numbering for the next subtitle begins with A, B, C, like this one. So after the 3rd level, for the 4th level, in your thesis, when you write the subtitles, it should begins with A, B, C, like this. And for the 5th level, it should be in 1 Roman, 2 Roman, and so on for the 5th level. So this one is wrong. Okay, so this is the fourth level. 4th level should be with A, B, C. And for the 5th level should be Roman 1, 2, and 3. However, this is a content list, so the numbering of subtitles in the content is up to 3rd level only. So you shouldn't have these subheadings of A, B, C as well. Okay, so it's until the 3rd level only, 2.21. So now, how would you put the numbers on each of the pages of your thesis? Page numbers should appear on the right-hand corner, 15 millimeter from the top of the page. Okay, so front pages, usually when you start your thesis, you have the front pages where you begin with the title page, should be numbered consecutively in lowercase Roman numerals, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Yeah, like this. The first page, i.e. the title page, is considered as page 1, but the page number is not typed in. Okay, so as you go on, when you go to the main text or the body of text for your thesis, the numbers should be consecutively in Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3, and so on, like this. Yeah? So all the page numbers should appear on the right hand corner 15 millimeter from the top of the page. The first page just now of the main text is considered as page 1, but the page number is not typed in. So similarly, for the whole thesis, as you go to each of the chapters, the page number will not be typed in for the first page, okay? Although the page is actually counted. For spacing and paragraphing, generally the text of your thesis must be typed with 1.5 spacing. The following must be typed with single spacing: the declaration, acknowledgements, both abstracts, I've mentioned this before, your list of contents, list of tables and illustrations, footnotes, endnotes, and references. So all of these must be typed with single spacing. A new paragraph must begin one space below the last sentence of the previous paragraph, like this one. So there should be one space below from the previous paragraph. The first paragraph under each heading, which is this paragraph, must begin from the left margin, while the subsequent paragraphs must have the first line indented, like this, 12.7 millimeter from the left margin. Okay, the heading, i.e. the chapter numbers, should be typed 50 millimeter from the top page and centered. The title of the chapter should begin 2 spaces below the heading chapter 1 and is also centered. The subheading for the first line of the text should begin 2 spaces below the chapter title, and it should follow the margin specification that we have there. Okay, so you have first level, and then the second level, the third level. If you remember, the fourth level should be numbered as, the subtitle should be numbered as A, B, C, and the following, the fifth level, should be numbered as Roman 1, Roman 2, Roman 3. Okay? So for subtopics, the numbering allowed is only up to 2 decimal points, i.e. the third level only, which is this one. After that is A and Roman 1, 2, 3. The following subtopic should be numbered using A, B, C. For example, this one. So this is after the third level. This is the fourth level. And the fifth level will be Roman 1, 2, 3. Numbering for subtopics are only allowed until the fifth level. Okay? And as I have mentioned previously, subtopics until the third level are only allowed to appear on the list of contents. So this is your list of content. The maximum decimal numbers is only 3. This is until the third level only. Although in the body of text you have more subheadings after the third level. You have the fourth level, A and B, but you don't put it in your list of contents. Okay. To present a table, the title of a table must be positioned above the table. As you could see here, that's the title of your table. There's no full stop at the end of the title. Tables must be numbered according to the chapter. So this is table 8.1. It means that this is the first table that appears in chapter 8. And as you could also see, there is no left, right, and middle lines separating each column. If you have any source of information, the source should be placed under the table, in the middle, and 1 line spacing after the table. Now, if your table is presented in a landscape view, the head or the title of the table must be along the bound edge of the thesis, like this. So this is table 10.3. It means that this table appears as the third table in chapter 10. Now, if you have a case where you don't have that much space in one page for your table, you can make your table to appear in several different pages. So this is the table that we have. You can use the word to be continued ... there on one page, and as you continue your table to another page, you should write on ... continuation, so people will know. So in Malay it will be bersambung ... and then ... sambungan. As for your figures in the thesis, the figure caption should be typed under the illustration. So this is your figure. It should be captioned at the bottom. Figures should also be numbered according to the chapter. So this is figure 5.12, which means that the figure appeared as the 12 figures in chapter 5. Explanation and description of the table or your figures in the text should precede the table and figure. So if you have a figure, you should describe it first in a paragraph. For example, here it says figure 5.12, which appear in page 91. So the figure that you're talking about should be appearing after page 91, not before. It is also advisable for you to write down your description as shown in figure 5.12 and avoid using the sentences as shown in the above figure, or the figure below shows . Now, when you make figures and tables, of course, you can't avoid to write down your measured values with the units. So these are the common mistakes done by students whenever they mention their measured value with the units. There should always be spaces between the values and units, like this: 3 space centimeter, 4 space liter, and 5 space second. Units should be written with numerals, not words, so you don't have to write down the numbers. You don't have to spell down the numbers, you just have to write down the numbers correctly, like this. Molarity and liter each use uppercase letters M and L. So 3 milliliters, it should be 3 space small letter M, capital letter L. Similarly, 2 microliter should be written like this. 3 microliter, this is the common mistakes done by students. They usually put a letter U for micro. If you are using words, if you look carefully at the symbol section, you can actually find the correct unit or the correct symbol for your micro unit. It should look like this. And then 3 millimolars, 3 small letter M, capital letter M. So if you write down as 3 small letter M and small letter M, people might get confused thinking that it's millimeters, when actually you're talking about millimoles. No need space for percentage and degree Celsius. Okay, for these two symbols, for these two units, there's not necessarily a spacing between the unit and the measured values. And of course, please take note that for degree Celsius, you should again find the symbol. Do not use the superscript of capital letter O or small letter O, or even the number 0, which is wrong. It should looks like this, the correct degree Celsius symbols. No plural forms for abbreviations of unit. So no need to write cms, kgs. This is wrong. Do not place a full stop after a unit except when it's at the end of a sentence. For example, a total of 5 milliliter. Some students put a full stop there, which is wrong. So there shouldn't be any full stop. A total of 5 milliliter solution A was added to solution B. Now we are going to talk about referencing or citing your sources. There are several reasons why you should cite your sources. The first one is, if you quote or base your ideas on another person's work, you must document the source you used. This is to avoid plagiarism issue by giving credit to the original author. The second reason is that by citing your sources, you show the amount of research that you have done. So this is like a proof to your examiners that you have done your research. The third reason why you need to cite your sources is that citations lead to other great sources. So it is extremely helpful to anyone who wants to find out more about your ideas or where they came from. And finally, when you cite your sources, it actually strengthens your work via other researchers' support to your ideas. Okay, it provides evidence for your arguments and creates credibility to your work. So if you read it, don't forget to cite it. So how do you do in-text citations? Using Gaya UKM, candidates are required to use the author date system consistently throughout the thesis for in-text citation. So using UKM style, you need to refer to the name of the author and the date or the year of publication. For example, here you have the name of the author, Hawkins, in bracket the year of publication 2012, or in bracket Hawkins 2012. If the author has a surname, only the surname is written. You don't have to put any initials. If it's an Arabic author, the surname or the name by which he is known is used. For a Malay author, his own name is used. And if it is a Chinese author, you should write down the surname. Consider doing in-text citations from publications which only have one sole author. If the author's name is part of the sentence, the year of publication is stated within brackets. For example, Reed in bracket 2012 has proven that ... or ... as has been investigated by Romlah in bracket 2009. If the name of the author is not part of the sentence, both the name of the author and the date of publication without a comma are placed within brackets. For example, in a study on the teaching and learning of mathematics, in bracket Shahrir 2010, ... Where both the author's name and the date of publication are part of the sentence, brackets are not required at all. For example, in the year 2012, Lokman investigated ... If the same source is referred to more than once within the same paragraph, the date of publication need not to be repeated as long as there is no possibility of confusion with another work by the same author. For example, in one sentence, you can write down, in a study on the teaching and learning of mathematics, Shahrir in bracket then express the view that full stop, and the next sentence that comes after that, you can say Shahrir also said that In a situation where there are two authors in the publication, both names must be mentioned each time it is referred to. For example, Abdul Razak and Abu Osman in bracket 2009 have provided the definition of or as has been proven in bracket Abdul Rahman and Arsma 2009, or Baharuddin and Abdullah Marwi in bracket 2012 have identified the synanthropic fly as So what happens if we have more than two authors in one publication? The name of the first author is given, followed by ETL dot, and also the year of publication in bracket. For example, Shafaratul ETL dot in bracket 2011 have provided a detailed explanation about the or has reduced the deterioration of oxidation DNA in bracket Siti Balkis ETL 2011. Now, what if we have authors with the same name? If the list of references includes works by two or more authors with the same name, the full name or initials of each author must be used each time one of these works is cited to avoid confusion. For example, Khalid B.A.K in bracket 2010 and Khalid Yusuf in bracket 2010 . Okay, so you have to put on the initials because they are different people. In a situation where you have multiple references, two or more references made in the same place, the references should be separated by semicolons and the sequence should be in alphabetical order. For example, in bracket, Abdul Samad 2011, semicolon, Azahan 2011, semicolon, Jamaluddin 2010, semicolon, and Qadir 2012. Now, in a situation where more than one reference is made to the same author of separate publications, the publication year of each is separated by a comma and not a semicolon. For example, in bracket, Jamaluddin 2007, 2009, 2012. For references with the same author in the same year of publication, they should be arranged accordingly. For example, in bracket, Sham 2010A, 2010B. In a situation where you have to refer to a software manual, you can write down your text, then refer to the software manual, for example, Adams or Flex or msc.nastran. That's the manual for the softwares, and the year when the manuals are released. So without a comma or semicolon, 2012, 2011. For the software itself, you can refer it as, in bracket, Abacus or Explicit, that's the software, and the version of the software that you used, 2009, for example. Or in bracket, MATLAB, that's the software name, and you use the one which is released in 2008. Okay, that's the software version. Now, after you have made in-text citations in the text of body of your thesis, you have to do the reference list. So at the end of your thesis, there will be a list of references which should begin on a new page with the heading references or rujukan here, centered and 30 millimeter from the top of the page. The list of references, if you could see here, must be typed single-spaced. So this section should contain all the sources that you have mentioned in your thesis. Sources which are not referred to in the text, please do not list them down. All references should be listed in alphabetical order. The title of publications must be in italic. For example, Annals of Biomedical Engineering or Microsystem Technologies. And the title of publications must be in title case, except for prepositions, for example, and for, in, on, and the. If you could see here, you have Annals of Biomedical Engineering. So it's a title case for the publication titles, except for the preposition of, or for example here, seminars in dialysis. So this one should be in small letter. Okay, so how would you write your references in the reference list? If the publications that you are trying to refer to is in the form of a journal, first you have to write down the author's names, full stop, and then the publication year, full stop, the title of the journal, so this is the title of the article, full stop, and then you should write down the name of the journal in italics, comma, the volume number, and then if there is an issue number, you should write it in a bracket like this. So this is the volume number, in bracket issue number, and then there is a colon, and then the number of pages, full stop. So that's how you write a reference for a journal article. If you are trying to refer from books, so you should write down the author's name, full stop, year when the book is published, full stop, the title of the book that you are referring to, it should be in italic, full stop, the place of publication, colon, and the name of the publisher, full stop. For proceeding or post-conference publications, first the author's names, full stop, the year when the proceeding is being published, full stop, the proceeding title, full stop, the name of the proceeding in italic form, comma, and then the number of pages, full stop. So HLM dot means halaman. So in English it will be PP dot. Next, for a thesis or academic exercise, first you have to write the name of the author for the thesis that you are referring to, the year when the thesis is being submitted, full stop, the title of the thesis, full stop. You should mention whether it's a PhD or a master thesis, comma, and from which university, full stop. For a software manual, write down the software, that's the software name, full stop, the year when the manual is being released, full stop, the title of the manual, so this is Quick Reference Guide, full stop, and then the venue where the manual is being released, then you have a colon there, that's the name of the company that released the manual. For a software, you write down the name of the software, full stop, the year when the software is being released, full stop, what version, full stop. The place where the software is being released, colon, and the name of the company that developed the software. Alright, for today's lecture, we'll talk in detail about two reference management softwares that are widely used by students and researchers. We're going to talk about Mendeley. So this is Mendeley Desktop. And the second one we're going to talk about, the second software is EndNote. Okay, so let us first talk about EndNote. So EndNote is a commercial reference management software package produced by Clarivate Analytics, previously by Thomson Reuters. So it's a bibliographic and file management tool for academics to use in order to manage the references when you're writing theses or journal articles. So EndNote libraries, as you could see here, are organized by author, date, title, or any other tag that you desire. You can put it there. Libraries are searchable by keywords, and the library can also hold links to your journal article saved in PDF format. So if you could see, this is one journal article. If you click on it, you could see the reference. The reference style will be here, and you can attach the PDF file of the journal article. You can add a reference to the EndNote library manually, or you could do by exporting, importing, or copying from another EndNote library. Usually you'll find your paper in Elsevier or Science Direct. From the website, some databases requires the user to select citation, so you can click on export, select specific format. In this case, you can try to export citation to text and save the references in TXT files. Okay, you double click the TXT files, it will give you the information regarding the reference of the paper that you want to refer to. You can then manually copy this citation into the EndNote library. In another way, many databases have embedded software so that search results can be downloaded in EndNote compatible format. So you can automatically click on export and export citation to RIS format. So it will download it in RIS format. Double click on it, and it will automatically open your EndNote, and the reference will be added at this imported references tab. You can find it in there. Double click on here, so it will give you the preview of the references. So this is the name of the authors, the journal, the name of the journal, the publication title and the name of the journal, volume number, colon, the page numbers. Okay, so if you click on edit output styles, and you can change the reference formatting. So this is the APA6 reference format. Conveniently, you can change your output styles to author date. Yeah, so it will automatically change your output style to author date. Okay, so there are other different reference formatting styles in EndNote library that you could choose. Okay, after you have added all of the publications that you are referring to in the library, you can easily use the EndNote software to do in-text citation in your thesis, and at the same time generating the reference list. So I'll show you how to do it in Microsoft Word. So how would you insert citation using EndNote in Microsoft Word? If you open your Microsoft Word, there will be a tab called EndNote Text 7. Okay. And first you put your cursor to where you wanted to place your in-text citation, for example here. And then you click on Insert Citation. It will open a small window called Find and Insert My References. It will list down all the publications that you have saved in your EndNote library. You click on, you can try to find the publication, and then you can click on the paper. This is JAS 2012. Double click on it. It will automatically insert the reference in text at the position of the cursor that you have placed previously, and then at the same time it will generate the reference list. Okay, you can change the style of your references format. You can change it to EPA6, and it will change the formatting of your reference list and also the in-text citation formatting. Okay, now let us look at Mendeley, which is owned by Elsevier. Mendeley is a free web and desktop reference management application. Just like EndNote, Mendeley helps you to simplify your reference management workflow, where you can store, organize, and search all your references from just one library. So in Mendeley, they have this Mendeley Desktop, which is the original reference manager that you can download and it runs on Windows and Mac. Then they have this Mendeley Web, where you could access Mendeley features and services online from your browser. So if you're using this, you don't have to download and install any software. You can access, update, and manage your personal library of references online. So they have Mendeley Desktop and Mendeley Web. And they also have this Mendeley site. It's actually a citation plugin for Microsoft Word to speed up the process of referencing when writing. So this is just like EndNote. It's an add-in for Microsoft Word that allows you to easily insert references from your Mendeley library into your Word document. And you can change your citation style, you can generate a bibliography, all without leaving your document. So you can see here, this is the Mendeley Desktop. This is your library with all of the publications saved in the library. If you click on one paper, for example this Fluoro Guy, you will get a preview, or all the information of the publication will be shown here in details. So that's the name of the publication, the author's list, the name of the journal, volume, issues, and page numbers. So this is the Mendeley library from the Mendeley Desktop. Right. Okay, so how would you save the publication into the library for Mendeley? So from the website of Science Direct, you can click on Export, and you can click on Save to Mendeley. It is quite straightforward actually, the process. So this paper by Majharul Haq Khan, you wanted to save it, just click Save to Mendeley, and it will automatically insert it into your Mendeley Desktop. Okay, you could find it in All Documents tab, the paper that you just saved, and it will show you all the details of the paper that you have just saved at the preview section here, including the abstract together. So it's quite straightforward compared to EndNote. Okay, when you have added all of the references that you wanted to refer to in the library of the Mendeley desktop, you can try to use it to do in-text citation for your thesis and also to generate the reference list. So if you use Microsoft Word, you can open it. You can write your sentences and place the cursor where you wanted the reference in text to be. And then you can click on References and you click on Insert Citation. So this is usually the symbols for specifically for Mendeley. Okay, once you press Insert Citation, it will give you this small window here where you can search any publication that you have saved in Mendeley by title, author, or year of the publication. Okay, and then you can write on the name of the author, Khan Majarul Haq, to give you the paper, and then you can just double click on it or click OK. It will insert your reference in text at the place where you have previously put your cursor on. Okay, you can try again. Put another reference in text, number 2 there. Okay, and then to generate the reference list, you click on Insert Bibliography. So down there, it will generate the reference list. So the first is by M.H. Khan, the second is by A. Fleury. So it's quite easy. Now you can change the style of your reference formatting. You can change it to APA, or in this case they have a specific formatting for applied surface science in Mendeley. Okay, so if you are writing a journal, you can straightforwardly choose this for the specific journal. You can change it to Harvard Reference Format 1, so it will automatically change the reference in text and the reference list simultaneously. One advantage of using Mendeley is the fact that UKM has developed the Gaia UKM formatting plug-in citation for Mendeley, which you could easily insert into your Mendeley desktop. Okay, so from your Mendeley desktop, you click on View, Citation Style, and click on More Styles. Right, it will give you this window here. So you click on Get More Style, and then in Download Style, you copy this link and paste it here and press Download. Okay. So you're trying to insert the Gaia UKM style formatting into your Mendeley desktop. Okay, from the Citation Styles window, click on Installed and click on Gaia UKM 2017 NT Noraini Talib. Click on Use this style. From your Word document, at the References tab, you can click on Style and choose Gaia UKM 2017 NT Noraini Talib. Okay, once you choose this formatting, your reference in text and reference list formatting will change to Gaia UKM. So you could try to do this on your thesis. Right, now we have come to the second section for our today's lecture. I'll be talking a bit on journal and research book chapter writing that you could consider during your study here in UKM. Right. When you wanted to write for a journal, the first thing that has to come to your mind is the audience of that journal. For example, here I'm giving an example of one journal, Applied Surface Science. So the first question that you should ask is, who are the audience for this type of journal? Okay, for Applied Surface Science, the audiences are usually come from a physics and chemistry background. So we can have surface scientists who might be interested to read your work, i.e. the physicist and chemist, electrochemist, or solid state physicist, right? So if you wanted to select a certain type of journal, you have to make sure the research work that you are doing or the results that you are trying to report, this type of readers will be interested on them. Then you can look at the aims of the journal. This can easily be found from the website of the journal itself. So you can click on the aims and scope for different type of journals from their own website. Okay, the aims for Applied Surface Science is to develop a better understanding of surfaces, interfaces, nanostructures, and their applications. The journal is concerned with scientific research on the atomic and molecular level of material properties, and it must be determined with specific surface analytical techniques or computational methods, as well as the processing of such structures. So it's really important for you to highlight the key points that you should have in your research work before submitting to different journals. Other than the aims of the journal, there is another factor that you should really check on from the journal's website, which is the scope. So this one is also quite easily be found from the website of the journals itself. So you just have to click on the scope, and it will usually list down the research work related to the scope of the journal. So if you think that the paper or the research work that you're trying to submit is somehow within the listing, you can try to submit, and it might have higher chances of getting accepted for review. All right, so why is it important for you to check on the audience, the aims, and the scope for the journal that you're trying to submit? It is because you want it to be considered for publication. For example, in this Applied Surface Science journal, it says that your paper must be a research study on the atomic and molecular level. So you have to make sure the study is not just on the micro level or higher level. It should be very, very small, atomic and molecular level of material properties. And it should be, the work that you're trying to do should be related to specific surface approaches. Okay? The reasons why it is important for you to really look into this is to make sure that the work that you are trying to submit will be considered for review. Okay, if not, your submission will not be considered for publication, and it will actually be stuck at the editor's level. And usually when the editor first got your manuscript, they will look at the title and the abstract, might not go through until the end. So from the title and from the abstract themselves, they can make decisions whether they are within the scope, aims of the journal, and whether it can be submitted further for peer review. So if it does not, if the journal does, if your paper does not satisfy the criteria that they have set, it will be stuck at the editor's level. They will reject it, and the reviewer didn't even get the chance to read your work. So it's a bit it's a bit frustrating, but these are the tips that you might wanted to do preliminary before writing a journal. Okay, so initially your manuscript will be assessed by the editors for the suitability of the journal. Only papers which are deemed suitable are then typically sent to a minimum of one independent expert reviewer to assess the scientific quality of the paper. So for this specific applied surface science journal, this journal operates a single blind review process, which means that the authors do not know who the reviewers are, but the reviewers know who the authors are. Okay, so the reviewers will read your manuscript and make a reviewer report. The editor is actually the one who is responsible for the final decision regarding whether your manuscript will be accepted or not for the publication based on the reports given by the reviewers. And usually the editor's decision is final. So here is a bit on the formatting for the Applied Surface Science journal. Usually you have to submit your manuscript in Words file, and the text should be in single column formatting. Most formatting codes will be removed and replaced on the processing of the articles. The commonly used formatting, for example, boldface, italics, superscripts, subscripts are usually okay, but other formatting, probably the equations or for tables, will usually be removed. So you don't have to actually do that formatting. And then usually the source file of figures, tables, and text graphics will be required to be sent to the team, whether or not you embed your figures in the text. So they usually want this original source files separately, so you have to provide this to them. Using Applied Surface Science Journal as an example, if you have decided to write a full-length article, for the title, it should be concise and informative. Avoid using any abbreviations and formulae, whichever possible. Next, you should provide the author names and affiliations. Please clearly indicate the given names and family names of each author. Present the author's affiliation address, which means the location where the actual research work has been done below the names. And you should also provide the corresponding author for the paper. The corresponding author is the one who will handle everything at all stages of referring and publication, even after post-publication. This responsibility includes answering any future queries about methodology and materials. So, corresponding author is the one who really knows everything about the research done in that paper. So, some other researchers, after publication, some other researchers might be interested to ask a few things about the research, about the paper. So, they will contact the corresponding author. So this is an example of the manuscript submitted to Applied Surface Science. You have the title, the list of authors, and the affiliations. Usually have to provide the keywords as well. And you start with abstract. For the abstract, the limit, the words limit is 200. A concise and factual abstract is required. It should briefly state the purpose of the research, the principal result, the major results, and major conclusions. After the abstract, you usually, in the body text of the manuscript, you usually start with an introduction. You have to state the objectives of the work and provide an adequate background. Please avoid of a detailed literature survey because we want to talk more about the work done by you, not by other people. And then the next section, which is the most important section, I think, the materials and methods section. You should provide in details, provide sufficient details to allow the work to be reproduced by an independent researcher. Methods that are already published should be summarized and indicated as a reference. If quoting directly from a previously published method, use quotation marks and also cite the source. Any modification to existing methods should be also described. You should really focus on this section. Make sure you have provided all the details required to let other people know how you actually do the measurement, the experimental setups and everything. And then you have a theory or calculation section. A theory should extend, not repeat the background of the article already dealt with in the introduction, and lay the foundation for further work. In contrast, a calculation section represents a practical development from the theoretical basis. So do not repeat what have been done. It should be something new or an extension of what have been previously done. And then after the theory and calculation section, there will be a results section. So you just have to report or write down all the measurements that you've got. Results should be clear and concise. More important than the results section is the discussion section of the results that you have obtained. This should explore the significance of the results of your work, not repeat them. Sometimes a combined results and discussion section is often appropriate. And at this section also, please avoid extensive citations and discussion of published literature. You can compare your results with others and explain or elaborate on the similarity or disparity, but not too much. Just focus on your work and the result that you have obtained. And after that, you have the conclusion section. The main conclusion of the study may be presented in short conclusion section, which may stand alone or form a subsection of a discussion or results and discussion section. And finally, you have a references section. Most Elsevier journals have their reference template available in many of the most popular reference management software products. As we have seen previously, Mendeley, they have this template for Applied Surface Science journal. Using citation plugins from these products, authors only need to select the appropriate journal templates when preparing their article, after which citation and bibliographies will be automatically formatted according to the journal style. Okay, so we have discussed previously on Gaya UKM or Style UKM as the standardized referencing formats for your thesis. For journals, there are three widely used referencing formats, which are the APA format, the Harvard format, and MLA8. So APA stands for American Psychological Association. The core components of an APA reference. So you usually start with the author's name, comma, initials, full stop, and then the published year, full stop, the title of source. I think this is for books, for referencing a books. Title source, location of publisher, colon, publisher, retrieve from URL. This is used if the source is an online source. So that's the core components for an APA reference. If you do the in-text citation, you will write down as, for example, Michelle, in bracket 2017 states that ... or ... in bracket Michelle, comma 2017. For the Harvard format, so this is how to cite a journal article in Harvard formatting. You have author's name, publication year, the title of your paper. They are mentioned or written within a single quotation mark. And then the journal title. This is the title of the newspaper or the publication journal in italics. You have to capitalize the first letter of each word, comma, volume. So the volume number is written outside brackets, and the issue or the season number is written immediately after within the bracket, comma, page numbers. So when you do the reference in text, you write down Michelle in bracket 2017, that's the year, comma, page 189, closing bracket, states that ... or ... in bracket Michelle's, comma, 2017, comma, page 189. So P dot refers to a single page, while double P dot refers to a range of pages. Okay. For MLA 8, or Modern Language Association 8th edition, it's a bit small, you might not be able to see it, but you can see the author's name. I think there's a full stop there, and then you have the title of source. I think this is for books. So the source title should be italicized for the whole book title, and you have to put a quotation mark. So previously for Harvard, you have to put single quotation marks. For MLAA, you need to put the double quotation marks. And then you have the title of container, other contributors, comma, version, the version or the edition, which edition is the book, comma, numbers. So this is the issues volume numbers, comma, publisher, comma, publication date, comma, location. If you want to do in-text citation, you can say Michelle states, or it should be in quotation mark, ... in bracket 189, or ... in bracket Michelle, no comma, 189. So 189 refers to the page number. Okay, once you have submitted your journal article, for transparency, you have to submit an author statement file. So this statement outlines the individual contributions of each author to the paper using the relevant credit rules. So you have to mention which author did the conceptualization, data curation, who's the one doing formal analysis, or who's finding the funding acquisition, who's the one doing the experiment, investigation, or managing the project. So The authorship statement should be formatted with the names of the authors first and credit rows following. So it should be very clear about this. So each different authors has some sort of contributions to the paper, either doing the experiments, doing the research, or managing the project, or funding the project. Okay, regarding research book writing, if you wanted to compare with journal writing, writing for peer-reviewed journals places different constraints on what to write. Submitting for double-blind review journal, for example, we would try to stay in our comfort zone in order to play safe. In other words, we kind of try to please any possible reviewer or reader. As for research book writing, for example, if you want to try to write a book chapters in edited collections seems to be places where one can take rather more risk. Book chapters allow more space for reflection on bigger ideas than the journal articles. It makes you becoming more adventurous in the approach to the topic. So there won't be any reviewers who will criticize your work or judging your ideas. So you can be more brave. You can be braver in outlining your ideas and your work. These chapters don't need to stand alone in the way that journal articles usually do. Rather, they sit alongside other chapters exploring closely related issues. So sometimes this often allows for some cross-referencing between chapters, either by authors or the editors. So that each chapter doesn't need to say absolutely everything on the topic, and the ideas can expand out beyond the individual chapter. In this situation, a quite distinctive, personally inflected contribution can be valued for the facet that it adds to the composite whole. The most important element that an author needs to keep thinking about when writing a book chapter is how your individual chapter contributes to the overall storyline of the book. So in my opinion, at your stage, at this postgraduate student level, the most important publication would be from your journal articles. Then in the end, you should focus on your thesis. Only after you completed your study, you are encouraged to write a book or a chapter from the thesis. So in my opinion, writing a research book will be quite fun than writing a journal. But at your level, it's not as important as writing a journal. So you're encouraged to write a research book from your thesis after you finish your study. We have come to the last section of our lecture today. What makes a good journal? What makes a good thesis? So first I'm going to talk about how to write a good thesis. To write a good thesis, you must know what is a PhD. So this is the illustrated guide to PhD given by Professor Matthew Might. He said that imagine a circle that contains all of human knowledge. So this perfect circle is a human knowledge. By the time you finish your elementary school, you know a little. So that's your knowledge level. You know a little after elementary school. Once you finish your high school, you know a bit more. So your knowledge is expanding a little. With a bachelor degree, you gain a specialty. Yeah? So this bump there is your specialty. once you finish your degree. If you do a master's degree, it will deepen that specialty to a certain level. Then you read some research papers, you know the state of the art, you know what the most current technology, the most current knowledge. So it takes you to the age of human knowledge. You reach at this point. Once you are at this boundary, you focus. You push at the boundary for a few years, probably 3 or 4 years. You push hard the boundary until one day the boundary gives away. So you made this small dent on the circle of human knowledge. And that dent that you have made is called a PhD. Of course, your work now looks like this. It looks different to you. People who are doing PhD will know this. Your world will be, you kind of like entrap yourself in the PhD world. But please don't lose yourself and forget the bigger picture. So that's the human knowledge, and the small dent that you made is your PhD. So the dent that I was talking about just now, it symbolizes the novelty of your research work. In order for you to write a good thesis, the first thing that you should have is the novelty of your research work. Novelty makes an original contribution to knowledge. You have to convince the examiners that your work has merit or significant contribution or added knowledge values to the current knowledge. So your work has to be novel. Other than novelty, to write a good thesis, you have to make sure that your data collection and analysis was appropriately done. It should demonstrate logical, structured, and defensible reasoning based on credible and verifiable evidence. Then you should make recommendations based on firm evidence. Overall, you need to think like a researcher. A novelist could write a good novel. An amazing researcher should write a good thesis. One way for you to self-evaluate whether you have written a good thesis is to look at your thesis from the examiner's perspective. So these are 6 questions that are usually hovering within the minds of the examiners whenever they are reading a thesis. The first question would be, does the candidate show sufficient familiarity with and understanding the critical appraisal of the relevant literature? Second, does the thesis provide a sufficiently comprehensive investigation of the topic? Third questions, are the methods and techniques adopted on his work appropriate to the subject matter, and are they properly justified and applied? 4, are the results to be set out and accompanied by adequate exposition and interpretation? Number 5, are conclusions and implications appropriately developed and clearly linked to the nature and content of the research, framework, and findings? And finally, does the thesis as a whole constitute a substantive, original contribution to knowledge in the subject area in which it deals? So these are the 6 questions that the examiners will ask themselves as they read through the whole thesis. If you look at the introduction part of your thesis, the introduction chapter should explain what the thesis is about, the problem that the thesis is concerned with. You should mention your aims, scope, and outline the thesis structure.
Bear in mind that an introduction is not an essay. The only purpose it has is to introduce your research. You should outline the problems you have investigated, explain the aim of the research, and any limitations on the scope of the work, and finally provide an overview of what lies ahead. So first, in the introduction chapter, you should provide the context of the study. Provide a brief history of the issues to date. Situate your particular topic within the broad area of research. Note that the field is changing and you should emphasize that more research is required on your topic. So that's why you are doing this research and writing the thesis. And then you should mention the problem statement or motivation of the study. Please identify a key point of concern, for example, lack of research to date, you're responding to an agenda, you found a new discovery, or perhaps one not yet applied to this context. Refer to the literature only to the extent needed to demonstrate why your project is worth doing. Reserve your full review of existing theory or practice for later chapters, not in this introduction chapter. Be sure that the motivation or problem needs further investigation. So you should emphasize this. For your aim and scope, make sure that your aim responds logically to the problem statement. Stick rigorously to aim. Do not include elements in it that describe how you intend to achieve this aim. So this is for the latter chapters, not for the introduction. In the end, when you have written the conclusion to your whole study, you have to check that the conclusion responds to your aim. If they are not, you might have to change the aim or rethink your conclusions. Beware that if you change the aim, you need to revise again the motivation for studying it. So it's like a closed loop. You need to have a nice storyline that connected together your aim, your motivation, your results, and your conclusion. It should be a closed loop. Be sure to establish the scope of your study by identifying limitations of factors such as time, location, resources, or the established boundaries of particular fields or theories. In the introduction chapter, you should also make a statement or emphasize the significance of your study. Explain how your thesis contributes to the field. So there are 4 main areas of contribution. It can be theory development, tangible solution, innovative methods, or policy extension. It must be novel or original. So if you don't make this statement, the examiners will have to look for it. So to make the job easy for the examiners, you can make a statement on this in your thesis in the introduction section. And finally, in the introduction chapter, you should give an overview of the study or the structure of your thesis. You can sketch out how the thesis is structured. Don't confine yourself to a list of the chapters, but show how they are linked and that one section logically leads to another. Check whether the reader can see from the sketch how the aim will be achieved. So after the introduction chapter will be the background chapter. So the background chapter provides the knowledge required before a reader can understand your research. It contains relevant history, context, current knowledge, theory and practice, and other researchers' view. Your purpose is to position your study in the context of what has gone before, what is currently taking place, and how research in the area is conducted. Reviewing current theory or practice and may include the results of preliminary experiments carried out to help you feel your way into the problem. Experiments may also be used to establish benchmarks based on other works against which your work is to be measured. So your background chapter should include historical, geographical, and other descriptions of your study area. It should also include definitions and usages of words and expressions as appropriate to your thesis, existing theory and practice for your research topic. The conclusions to this background chapter should lead clearly to the research hypothesis or research questions that you pursue in your work. Please do not include descriptive material that will never be used later in the thesis. Also, you shouldn't put your own contribution to thinking on the theory. So this is the important contribution that makes the main part of your thesis. You should save it for your results and discussion section, okay? Not in the background chapter. Resist the temptation and save these contributions for your discussion chapter. Any foreshadowing of what you will be doing in your research should not be in the background chapter. You can't do this until you have designed your own research, which can't be done until you have finished all these chapters. So please don't get ahead of yourself and save the best for last. Now we come to the main section, the most important section of your thesis, of your PhD study event, the core chapter. So the core chapter concerns your own work. You're not talking about other people's work. It's your work, your 3-4 years of worth of work. So this is where you report everything, your results, your propositions, or hypothesis, innovation, experimental designs, survey and reviews, results, analysis, and so on. It forms the bulk of the thesis and usually consists of several chapters. So regarding the methodology, in the core chapter, you should discuss the range of research methods that could be used to test your hypothesis or answer your questions and choose the most appropriate. Don't forget to justify your choice. Experimental validations requires an experimental design. Expect to have to explain it in detail, and also don't forget to justify it again. If you have not already described your detailed research procedure in the research design chapter, you should describe it first before you go on to report any research results. For research results reporting, data comes from sources and experiments described in the earlier chapters. You should only include data that is derived from a process that you have described. That is, the reader or the examiner must understand where your data comes from. You have to describe the data fully. Make sure you have used the right kind of analysis mechanism for your data. For example, tools or approaches for large data sets may be unsuitable for sparse or irregular data. You have to understand your variables, and you have to build a clear argument from data to knowledge. As you build this argument, be aware that interpretations of the results may lead you back to the data collection process. So this is usually the favorite questions that the examiners will ask during your viva process. How do you collect your data? So make sure you can justify and has a clear argument how you get the data from your experiments. In the synthesis chapter, which is basically your discussion and conclusion chapters, the synthesis chapter should draw together your contribution to the topic. It contains a discussion in which you critically examine your own results in the light of the previous state of the subject as outlined in the background chapter previously. You should make judgments as to what has been learned in your work. The discussion may be separated into different chapters or may be integrated with the detailed work in the core. And finally, you summarize the discussion and evaluation to produce conclusions. The conclusion should correspond directly to the aim of the work as stated in the introduction chapter. So first, you have to structurize your discussion. You can begin by writing down all the things that you know now that you didn't know when you started the project. Rearrange this list will give you the titles of the main section of your discussion. And then you should check the thesis structure before you start writing material in each of these sections. Check your thesis structure by stringing together introductions and conclusions for each of the chapter. Check that the tentatively structured thesis responds to the aim and scope of that you set yourself in your introductory chapter. Then you connect discussions and conclusions. Your conclusions are what your discussion chapter has been arguing for. You could write the conclusions to your whole study as the last section of a chapter called discussion and conclusions, but it is usually preferable to have a separate conclusions chapter. Okay, rules about conclusions. You should draw your conclusion solely from the discussion chapter. There should be little further discussion in the conclusions chapter. The conclusions should respond to the aim stated in the first chapter. Summaries are not conclusions. Okay, they are not summaries. Summaries is different from conclusion. Conclusions should be crisp and concise. It can be used to briefly explore the implication of your findings. So the final part that usually being written for your thesis will be the abstract. So that's the last thing that you should write in your thesis. Abstract needs to be present. It should contain summaries. So this one is summaries. Summaries of the three main components of your project. First, why you did the work and what were you trying to achieve. Second, what methods you used and what results you obtained. Third, what can you conclude from it? So these three should be in your abstract. You can check a book by David Evans et al. Called How to Write a Better Thesis. They have constructed the standard thesis structure, which shows the interconnections between the introduction, background, the core, and the synthesis of your thesis. Now, how to write a good journal. In your PhD or master's study, when you are doing your research, there will be one point where you might come across findings which are valuable or journal worthy. So what you could do is you could do a literature study on it, find what's lacking and what's not done, and then you can quickly plan your experiments, get the measurement results, and write your manuscript. Then you can check journal's aim and scope. Once you found a really suitable journal for your findings, you can try to submit. There is a book by Mahmoud Taha et al. On how to write and publish a scientific article that you can refer to. So there are a few questions to ask before article preparation. The first would be, what is the issue and the aim of my article? Why is this article important? How could I prepare the hypothesis? What are the findings? And what is the most significant result? For your journal, the abstract is considered as a looking glass of the article. It's actually the most viewed section of an article. So the abstract should be organized in such a way to draw the attention of the readers. It should contain the objectives, design, outcomes, and conclusion. And you should use concise language to sum up the article. So it needs to be apparent enough for those who will not view the rest. And one important point, the abstract should be short. References should be studied carefully for fundamentals and literature reviews. So just like your thesis, your journal article consists of 4 sections. You should have introductions, methods, results, and discussion. First, the introduction section of your journal. It is a critical part as it establishes the approach of the reader and reviewer. It is better if the introduction has 2 segments, so you can have like 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph may clarify and sum up the background. It explains the necessity for the study and the new information that the study intends to demonstrate. So that's for the first paragraph. In the second paragraph, the objective or hypothesis of your study will be described. So the introduction section does not also have to be that long. Just 2 paragraphs should be fine. And then you have the materials and methods section after the introduction section. It traditionally reported to be the easiest to write actually, even though it is known that this section also causes nearly 30% of rejections alone. So the choice of experimental and observational sample should be clearly defined. If used, material should be parameterized, such as chemical composition, trade name, company name, and country of origin. It should be clearly stated how the study was designed and the procedures were followed. After the methodology section, you should write the results section. You should start with the most important findings. Then the supportive findings should be mentioned. All data should be presented in an understandable manner. The results can be highlighted in tables, charts, or figures to make it more understandable. Statistical evaluation of the study can be included. So it's nice if you have some statistical evaluation. Data interpretation is not for the results section, but for the discussion section. So for results section, you just report on the results. Only the data disclosed in this section may be addressed in the introduction or discussion section. Do not add anything new which is not related or which you have not explained or described previously. For the discussion section, basic findings and new information presented by the current study need to be clearly stated. The strengths and weaknesses need to be addressed. Data of the study need to be compared with the findings of studies conducted previously. So you need to compare with the previous research done by other researchers. Any resemblances or discrepancies with the previous studies need to be justified or described or elaborated. Possible explanations need to be made for different findings. The study needs to be clearly and briefly concluded that is related to practice or future research. And finally, suggestions need to be made for future research. So please make sure you make sensible recommendation. And for the last paragraph will be the conclusion section. It's briefly summarize or conclude sentences indicating the importance of your paper. At the end of the article, the reader may have a clear idea of what this information will do. Okay. So you can read on this. The questions that usually a researcher asks themselves when they are doing the introduction, materials and method, results and discussion and conclusion sections. So if your paper is declined, please do not quit and plan to resubmit again. Less than 25% of the submitted papers are accepted in major scientific journals. Therefore, refusal of a paper does not always mean that it is a poor paper. A rejection indicates that the reviewers did not give it a sufficiently high priority. Okay. What's good about this is that since you have received important suggestions on how to improve your manuscript, you should not get too disappointed. Before sending your paper to the next journal, carefully examine the criticism of the reviewers and try to answer them as much as possible. Okay, looks like we finished with our lecture today. If you have any questions, you can try to reach me in UKM Folio. I think there is a chat apps or the feedback apps that you can write, and I'll try to read them. And for today's evening session, I wanted you to do your assignment. So here is your assignment. You need to make a list of reference. This is quite an easy assignment actually. Make a reference list. Make a reference list for your thesis. Imagine that you are writing a thesis. So I wanted you to make a reference list. I think most of you have done or currently doing literature study on your work, on your project. So you should already have read a few papers related to your work. So can you make a reference list of that? And the list should comprise the references for books, chapters in a book, journal articles, conference proceedings, thesis, MSc and PhD, patents, websites like news, blogs, or personal website. And you need, of course, for your thesis, this is the list of reference for your thesis, you need to follow Gaya UKM. Similarly, using the same reference list, choose a journal that you intend to submit in the future, probably next year or this year. Make a reference list for a journal of your choice that you intended to submit for in the future. Make sure you choose one journal and make sure you follow the standardized reference formats for the respective journal. Okay. So for the 3-hour evening session today, I wanted you to do this assignment, and please submit your assignment in UKM Folio by today at 5 p.m. Wednesday, 6th of January 2020. Okay, so this is an easy assignment. I expect you to be able to do it quickly this evening. And yeah, good luck. Thank you for your attention.